Figuring out your future can feel overwhelming when you're just starting out, but the United States Air Force can give you the support you need. With over 200 different career fields, there's a place for you to serve. Whether you want to provide health care to your fellow airmen, work to maintain valuable aircraft, or secure every base or something in between, the Air Force will give you all the top training and education you need to excel. You'll also have the chance to travel all over the world while serving your country. A decision to join the Air Force will be one that you will never forget or regret. Contact Staff Sergeant Benish at 505-239-3845 to find out more information.
Opioids can change your life like they did mine. My addiction started after my surgery. Soon, I couldn't live without them. I wasn't getting high anymore. I just wanted the physical withdrawals to stop. At that point, my safety, health, career, none of it mattered. But I found a solution. Visit anotherwaynm.com to find alternative ways to treat pain. That's anotherwaynm.com. Don't let my story become your story. Paid for by the New Mexico Department of Health.
Our fighters and athletes are constantly on the lookout for products that will provide a legal performance edge. Legal performance edge, yes. A couple years back, we came across a nutraceutical company that has an incredible technology. Since then, many of the fighters who train at Jackson Wink MMA Academy have been using their products with astounding success. Unlike most sports performance companies, this company began selling their products through doctors. Their unique technologies help the body heal and maintain exceptional health. For this reason, their products are recommended by doctors worldwide. Yes, worldwide. So how does this translate to sports performance? The truth is, you will never be stronger than you are healthy. How many times have we heard of star athletes who miss a big competition because they're out sick? The same technology that is used to boost the immune system and to detoxify, nourish, and rejuvenate the body is the same technology that boosts strength, endurance, and even cuts unwanted body fat, because we don't want to get fat. We are pumped to finally let you know about our best-kept secret here at Jackson Wink MMA Academy. The company is called RNA Sport. You can find them online at rnasport.com. Again, rnasport.com. Look them up. RNA Sport creates incredible sports performance formulas for elite athletes. Our fighters use and love these products. One of the most important things to know about RNA Sport formulas is their ease of use. It's very easy to use, yes. No more messy powders or hard-to-swallow pills. RNA Sport formulas are delivered directly into the body in a simple-to-take, great-tasting sprays. With high absorption, RNA Sport formulas can be taken immediately before a workout or competition with no lag time. RNA Sport formulas support increased strength and endurance, reduced joint and muscle fatigue, improved recovery, a healthy immune system, optimized metabolism, and a whole lot more. RNA Sport provides benefits and technology unlike any performance products you have ever experienced. I highly recommend you to check out rnasport.com and use their products. They will take your performance to the next level. In our next podcast, we will review the amazing benefits of their specific formulas. JW Raw is happy to also have Fireteam Fit as a longtime sponsor. They are a veteran-owned fitness company that is now partnered with the greatest gym in the world, Jackson Wink MMA Academy. Fireteam Fit is giving a special offer of 15% off. That is right, 15% off all their products. All of them. Go check it out. All their products. All you have to do is enter a code. The secret code is JWRAW015. Again, JWRAW, just like the show, 015. Enter that secret code. You're going to get 15% off everything you buy. Make sure you do that at checkout, and then you'll get that discount. We love having Fireteam Fit as a sponsor since they are family and veteran-owned. That is so cool. We love our veterans. We love our family. Both in one big, happy group. We're happy to have them. It's available on both fireteamfit.com and on amazon.com. Everyone knows how to find Amazon. If you're on Amazon, you're legit. You can go find them on Amazon or check out their website, fireteamfit.com. But don't forget to enter that coupon code. Remember, use JWRAW015.
You're listening to JW Raw.
We are live.
Welcome to the show, Alejandro Marentes.
Happy to be here, brother.
But for the rest of the show, I'll call you Alex because that's what I know you as.
Okay.
But officially, it's everyone knows you as Alex, right?
Right.
Nobody knows how to say Alejandro. You even got to roll the R.
That's right, Alejandro.
How else do they say Alejandro?
Alejandro. Yeah. Some people.
So I wanted to have you on the show because obviously I've known you forever from the police department. We're both retired. You did many more years than me. It doesn't mean you're older. It just means you started earlier, maybe. I don't know.
I'm older.
but simultaneously, you started this blog back when the internet was still not as cool as it is now. 2008, you started this blog called Borderland Beat, and it was kind of chronicling the cartel world, which nobody really knew what that was at the time here in America. I mean, obviously everyone in Mexico, it was a big deal over there, but here in America, nobody really knew what was going on. And you were kind of trying to bring it to the attention of I guess U.S. citizens. I mean, how did it all come apart? Or come together? Let's tell us about it.
Well, before 2008, I didn't know anything about cartels. I mean, I knew a little bit, but not really a lot. Just like any law enforcement, American law enforcement, that don't know much about Mexican cartels.
Yeah.
Mostly, specialized units like the gang unit or some of the Homeland Security, federal police maybe, some of the DEA guys. But there was 3 incidents that really got me involved. One was when I was an SRO at Jefferson Middle School. I met this little girl.
An SRO is a school resource officer, the officers that are assigned to schools. Just we're talking acronyms.
Yeah, right. So I was a police officer for the city of Albuquerque assigned to Jefferson Middle School. And I met this little girl. Her name was Alicia. And, she had an accent like me. I have an accent. And she, I got to know her one time. I was playing basketball, and she brought me some water. So since then, me and her kind of established a relationship as an officer.
Because it wasn't just water from the fountain; it was like a Fiji water, fancy water.
Yeah, so I was sweating because it was hot, and I was gonna go get. Actually, I was gonna get some money to get bottled water, and I got distracted. So she came and brought me some water, and then I told her how much, and she said, "Don't worry about it." And I got to know her mom, who was Mexican national, didn't speak any English. And they were always dressed really nice. She drove a white Escalade, lived in Ridgecrest in a 2-story house.
Yeah, fancy neighborhood.
So they seemed to have money. So I asked her what her dad did for a living, and she told me that her dad lived in Juarez, in Ciudad Juarez, and she didn't know what he did, and that he would send them money, and they would visit him in the summer. So that was kind of strange because typically, with my experience with the Mexican community, most Mexican people send money over there versus sending money back over there. So anyway, summer came and went, and she didn't come back to school. So I talked to her little cousin, and she told me that her family had been killed in Juarez. So I started to do research, to find out what happened to her. And I found out that they were in Juarez in a car, and they got intercepted by 2 trucks, and they shot her dad, her mom, and her little brother. So the drivers of the trucks, one came from the driver's side. They shot mom and little brother in the back seat of mom, and then they shot the father in front of Alicia. And for some reason, this guy didn't shoot Alicia. I'm not sure.
So they shot everyone: the mom, dad, brother, and left her alive for whatever reason.
Right. So so they, the police found out that the father was a lieutenant for the La Línea, which is a arm wing of the Juarez cartel. So they found all kinds of weapons in the trunk, $30,000 cash, and stuff like that. And she moved to San Antonio with her aunt on her mother's side. That was one incident. That summer, me and my brother actually did a motorcycle trip to Rocky Point, Puerto Peñasco, and we rode our motorcycles on the Mexico side. And as we drove through Mexico, during 2008, Felipe Calderon, president of Mexico, had declared war on the cartels. So it was really heated up everywhere, especially in the border area. So I didn't even know any of that. But in reading about Alicia, I was starting to find out that Juarez was actually really violent.
A war zone.
A war zone, one of the most dangerous cities at that time in the world. But and nobody knew. I didn't know.
See, and going back to that story real quick. So the police showed up for the crime scene kind of thing, and they found lots and lots of money, lots and lots of guns. So these people that these assassins or whatever, sicarios, I guess they call them, they killed the entire family except for Elisa, but they didn't take the money. They didn't take the guns, so they were making a statement, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the weird thing about it.
Yeah, they call it settling of affairs, or
What is it in Mexican? But,
it means that it's personal.
okay.
That they're either killing him because he's an adversary cartel. Like in Juarez at the time, the Sinaloa was trying to take over the Plaza of Juarez, and the Sinaloa cartel had an arm wing called La Gente Nueva, and their job was to kill, Juarez cartel members. So anyways, that was common. They were at the time they were having in 2008 14 executions a day over there. Mostly was cartel against cartel. So that was
one incident.
So that was one incident of many. But it hit home because I knew little Alicia, I got to know her, and it was like, man, it's crazy. But anyways, me and my brother had that same summer, we did a ride to Puerto Peñasco on the Mexico side, going over there. We were riding along the border, and we came to this town called Agua Prieta. It was getting dark, and we went to this. I was looking for a motel to stay for the night. We found this really nice, brand new, very nice motel. So we pulled up, and a guy behind the desk told us there was no vacancies. There was no cars in the parking lot.
Brand new hotel, but it was empty.
Right. So
no vacancies.
Right. So I started getting, directions where to, he was giving me directions where to find a motel. So this SUV with two ladies pulled up, real attractive ladies, and they said, she tells the guy, give him a room. So he gave us a room. Oh, wow. So my brother kind of started flirting with the driver, the kind of guy that he is. So, he's invited her for a couple of drinks, and of course she declined him. But we ended up going to this restaurant across the street to have dinner and a beer. And I started telling the owner what happened to us about the motel. I was kind of weird. And he got really nervous. He started looking around, and he tells me, you shouldn't be talking to strangers. It's very dangerous over here.
Meaning him or the people at the hotel? Is it just anybody?
It's just,
don't talk to anybody.
I didn't know what to make out of that. But he started telling me a story that this lady, the lady that told this guy to give us a room, was actually the girlfriend of the plaza boss. In Mexico, the cartels have these. That's how they have their structure. They'll have like a plaza boss that is in charge of that town, and their job is to make sure the drugs are getting through, make sure they're paying off people, and things like that, and make sure all the other cartels are not. So this guy apparently was known by El Mil, Dos Mil. 2000,
yeah.
But they called him Dos Mil. I'm not sure why. And he started telling us that this guy basically had all the police paid off. They were on his payroll, and he was very brutal, killing people all the time. He had everybody afraid of him. That motel was just a business to launder money, so he didn't really give a shit about, or he didn't care about.
And your brother was flirting with his wife,
right? And he told us he told the story that just a month ago when we were talking to him, just a month previously, they were at this club that he owns, this Dos Mil, and he went to the restroom, and some guy came and asked his girlfriend to started talking to her essentially, and Dos Mil came out of the bathroom, and when in a rage and shot the guy 20 times.
Oh my God!
And the police came and took the dead guy away.
They didn't question anybody. They just took the body out.
Right.
Yeah,
So needless to say, we went back to my room, man, and I didn't sleep well that night. I was just kind of worried about that. But I started to sense kind of, there's something wrong, going on here in Mexico right now, So we ended up our trip we went to Puerto Peñasco and came back on the U.S. side. There was another incident every Christmas. I used to spend a lot of time in Mexico.
And just so people know, you were actually born in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So my background is I was born in Mexico, came here to the United States when I was 10 years old. My father came from my dad used to work in El Paso for Tony Lama making boots, and they went on strike. They got fired. So my uncle was working for the city of Albuquerque. So he told my dad, "Come on over and
I'll get you a
work
job."
over here."
Yeah.
So we all came, and we had residency. We could live in the United States.
Yeah, it's important people know that you came legally.
So I came legally, and so I went to school here, and then I joined the Marines. I served in the Marines for 8 years, and then of course I became a police officer for the city of Albuquerque, and I served 30 years.
Yes.
I retired a couple of years ago.
I appreciate both those services,
Yeah.
obviously, and I know the listening audience does also.
So anyways, so every summer or every Christmas, three of us used to go to Copper Canyon up in Chihuahua and ride the canyon on motorcycles. We used to ride these dual sport bikes that were modified for distance. They're dirt bikes, but they're street legal.
Yeah.
So they're kind of heavy bikes. But we would ride these every year on Christmas in December. We would ride. So that year, and also in 2008, we rode the canyon, the mountains of Copper Canyon in Creel, Chihuahua. And we had a really bad experience with organized crime, a couple of sicarios. We were riding. We met up with a couple of sicarios that were driving a big truck. As we were riding our motorcycles, we came to this really narrow, the canyon was real narrow, only room for one vehicle. So my friend, his name is Everest, he went through. The truck was coming in, so I didn't have time to get through, so I was waiting for the truck to go through so that I can go on my way. The truck stopped. The two guys got out, and they both had AR-15s, were extremely intoxicated. One guy was snorting coke. So they were all coked out, and they were not real friendly, to say the least. They were telling me a story about two Americans that they had terrorized, where they had shot at them. The two Americans were from California riding bicycles in the area. So I was talking to them, and I told them, I need to go. My friend is up there. They looked up in the hill and realized that I was with other people. And so they let me go. So I kept going, and then finally we stopped by this little town where we found the Americans hiding inside a church, an abandoned church, and one guy had been shot on the foot.
Oh crap!
They were shooting at his feet, and they were terrified. And they were asking me what they should do. They were asking us for help. We were in the middle of nowhere. It was some little town in the middle of nowhere.
So they got shot at while they were going through that passage? Or
No, they encountered these two guys previously.
Okay.
And they were making them drink beer, and these guys weren't drinkers. They were bicyclists.
Wow.
And and they were just like they were trying to give me a hard time. Mostly the same thing, because they were making me drink. They were trying to give me a beer.
Give you Coke and beer.
No, he actually offered me Coke too.
So I mean, what if?
Not the Mexican pure cane sugar Coke.
It was real Coke. It wasn't that cut Coke that you get here in the States. Probably that's probably a little more pure, probably down south. But so. Right. If you hadn't mentioned you were with your friend up ahead, I mean, what do you think would have happened?
I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think that they realize, he's with other people.
Yeah.
So he kind of said, leave this F alone in Spanish. So I really felt bad leaving the American bicyclist there.
Oh, you left them in the church
because it was getting dark, and we're trying to get to our next destination was a little town named Urique. and it was getting dark. We still had like at least 3 hours to go before we got there
On your bikes.
on our motorcycles. So, so there's, and we had a lot of gear. We're traveling really rough terrain. So it's really, the only thing I could tell them, and they were actually on their way to a place called Batopilas. That's where we were coming from. And they still had like at least 8 hours to go.
Geez.
So I go, you're not going to make it anyways. Might as well just,
And they were doing it on bicycles?
on bicycles.
Wow.
Yeah. So we left. We got to Urique. It was like really dark, about 11 p.m. The next morning, we got up. We went to have breakfast. There was actually a restaurant in the motel. And it was 8 in the morning. There was 3 police officers drinking beer in uniform. And they all 3 had rifles, long guns. I have been traveling to Mexico a lot. I had never seen officers
With
long guns all the time, but they had. So the sergeant Sergeant Insignia came over to talk to me, and real friendly. He started telling me he had motorcycles. He also rode where I was from, where we were going. Real friendly, seemed very approachable. So I started telling him what happened, because I was mostly concerned about these Americans. And I started telling him, everything that happened. He got real quiet. And a couple of things I noticed was that he wasn't taking notes. Like, I'm a police officer.
Those pendejos.
Oh, yeah. Let me think. How tall was he, right? I wasn't getting any of that.
Yeah.
And then he tells me, if I was you, I would not be talking about that. Keep it quiet.
Wow.
And then he said, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay for your meal, but I need for you guys to leave. So my American friend who doesn't speak Spanish is telling me, what did he say, Alex? I go, let's just
don't worry about it. Let's get out of here.
go.
Time to go.
So we left.
Got a free meal.
Right. So we got on our bikes and we left, and we came to another little town. We stopped to get something to drink. And we saw this. We were in the little park, the little plaza, and we saw this old guy that was sitting there, kind of like he was crying, real sad. And I told him, "What happened? Are you okay?" And he was like, he wasn't talking. He seemed like he was just very depressed. And then on the bottom, I noticed, dry blood and matter. So I asked him, "What happened there?" And he started telling me that 2 of the police officers were executed. And they laid there for a couple of days before the federal police and the military came to pick him up, to get him, pick him up. So my friend was like, let's get the hell out of here.
So who was the old guy with the bodies? Or
so the guy was, I'm not sure if he was related to them or what, but, he was a resident from that little town. It was a very small town, real small. So I realized, there's a problem here in Mexico. There's something going on. I've never seen it like this. I always felt safe. I used to travel everywhere.
Obviously being from Mexico and
no problems.
Yeah.
I knew people. So I went back to the United States thinking, I started reading more and finding out that there was all kinds of stuff going on. So I decided that I needed to report on what was happening over there. So I started just translating news.
And just for a little context, El Chapo was just finishing around that time, or was he still in power, but in a totally different cartel?
No, so El Chapo, actually,
'cause that's the name everyone knows.
Yeah,
obviously.
so we were in what is known as the Golden Triangle.
Yeah.
And that area is real beautiful. It's all forest area, and that's where Chapo was hiding.
Yeah.
And that's where he grows all his weed and his heroin, and. At the time that I was involved with Borderland Beat, he remained at large.
Okay.
So he escaped in, he got captured in 2016.
Yeah.
And then he escaped in 2011. So the time that...
So you're writing during all this time, basically.
Yeah. So we, other than the fact that he became real powerful because of the fact that the federal government started taking on the Juarez cartel, the Tijuana cartel, and El Chapo was trying to take over the plazas and was able to do that because really the federal government didn't really go after El Chapo like they did others.
Money.
Yeah. So I started basically just translating. I'm a translator, so I started translating legal documents, news. I started to have other people join. a lot of journalists, they were afraid.
Mexican journalists.
Mexican
we're talking about,
journalists, yes. They were asking me if they could participate. And before I knew it, I had a team of 20 contributors, contributing all anonymous, including myself.
Yeah.
So I went by the name of Bugs for the
Bugs
time
Bunny.
the time that I was involved. So and I got pretty much just involved with the cartel thing.
So a lot of those execution videos that have been circulating out on the internet. I mean, people have seen them millions and millions of times, of the beheadings and the crazy stuff that's going on down there. Those videos were actually sent to you before anyone else saw them, and it was kind of a reality check about what was going on down there. And as part of your reporting, you would get people, some of these reporters, or actually members of the cartel, I guess, later on, were sending you these videos saying, this is so-and-so, this is what we do to traders, blah, blah, blah. And you were actually getting the original videos, cell phone videos sent to you, and you were posting that stuff. And
yeah. So we created a Google email, and we actually had a Google phone number. And people could provide information. So there was a point, that cartels, the violence in Mexico is not like just executing people. They were abducting people, torturing, trying to interrogate, and then they would either decapitate, dismember. I mean, it was a brutal violence. And we started to get a lot of these videos where they would. There was a guy in Tamaulipas. He was a boss for the Gulf cartel. His name he went by El Diablo, and he would execute 3-4 people a day. Jeez. And he would constantly be sending us videos. And it came a time we started to post a lot of these videos, but it came a time that I started thinking, I'm not going to give these animals a platform. Yeah. I'm not going to be the reason why they want to execute someone so they can put things up, because they do it mostly to terrify other cartels.
That was working.
Yes. So we decided at one point that unless it had news value, we were not going to publish a lot of these videos. And they were brutal to watch. I mean, I would sit down and watch, video after video. And then I would get a hold of Homeland Security and say, I got all these videos. I mean, are you guys interested in these things? Sure, send them to us, But, I mean, these were, over here, that's like a major evidence stuff, that you would have a big interest in. But over there, these cartels were just doing stuff like that, and nothing would happen to them. So a lot of that we're getting. We actually had a couple of collaborators that were part of Borderland Beat that disappeared. As they were reporting, because many times, I was here in the United States, but the majority that were contributing were over there in Mexico. And bloggers were starting to get killed too, because they were, like the journalists, they were providing information. So
some of the information they wanted out there, some of it they didn't.
Right.
So
they were big about names, making them look bad. They wanted you to publish certain things, and things of that type. So, it's just, sometimes just try to real difficult to try to figure it out, because it's like so complicated. With cartels are very dynamic in terms of how they function, and sometimes you can just piss someone off and you don't even meant to do that. You don't even know how you did that. So, anyways, but so it was extremely dangerous for some of the bloggers that were in Mexico. So, I was here in the U.S. I mean, I was anonymous myself. I mean, it was funny because I would get people, they would tell me, "Hey, you're going to Mexico, man? You should read that Borderland Beat. It's not even safe for you to go over there." Like, I know, I need to read it, right? But yeah, it was. It started to get real popular. We started to average about 75,000 hits a day.
Wow.
A lot of them were law enforcement. We would get a lot of stuff from law enforcement. They had a big interest in what was going on over there and stuff. So we're getting a lot of. I think Borderland Beat at the time was probably the most prolific source of news in with the Mexican cartels. So daily, and it's still around. It's still there. So if you want to know everything about the Mexican cartels, what's going on now, during El Chapo trial, we had someone at the trial
That was
reporting daily on everything that was going on. So it's still, very extreme, very active still. I'm not involved in it anymore. I still own it.
Yeah, you still own the page or the website or whatever,
right.
but there's other contributors now, and you've left it up to other admin people to kind of run it, I guess, at this point. Yeah.
Yes, pretty much.
And so I had no clue about what Borderland. I'm your typical selfish American that only cares about what's going on in America. Didn't care what was going on in Mexico. I'd see those videos and say, "Man, there are animals over there. That's horrible. Sucks to be them." It's not going to happen here. And
Right.
I started talking to you, and you started mentioning the stuff that was going on, and of course I looked at it, kind of glanced at the thing, and I'm like, wow, there's just a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
This is just crazy, and it's interesting because one of our listeners, funny, he's Steve. He's one of my motorcycle buddies. I've rode with him for many years, and he was working part time at bars bouncing, and I'd go visit with him every once in a while and just hang out with him. And he introduced me to this guy, and I didn't think anything about it. Just thought he was just another bouncer. He had the accent, whatever. Didn't think anything about it, and met him a few times, and never really gave it a thought or anything. And something happened where there was a story in your book. We'll talk about your book. You did write this book, Borderland Beat, which is named after the website. And we were talking about a guy named Lalo and his connection with this. There's a whole story in there about Lalo and the Death House. So it was the House of Death or the Death House or
The House of Death.
And Lalo had a connection to that. Well, it turns out this bouncer was Lalo.
Right.
So tell us about the whole Lalo Death House story.
So I had to add a little thing at the end.
Yeah.
So there's actually a chapter on Lalo. Lalo was an informant for the U.S. Customs, ICE, and DEA had dropped him because he was participating in executions. And U.S. Customs kept him because they felt he was valuable. He's providing a lot.
So this guy he's literally a Mexican citizen connected
Right.
to the cartel.
Right.
There's questions about his actual roles with the cartel, but at some point he worked for the United States, and the United States knew he was doing some shady stuff. Kind of looked the other way. It went all the way up to the Attorney General of the United States. They knew about it, and it was a big mess. I mean, if you read the whole history of it, it was during the Obama administration, and it was crazy stuff going on. And so this guy was caught up in all that, working for the government, but he was taking place in executions and witnessing them and recording them and doing crazy stuff like that.
Exactly. He would open the door, the house.
He had the special key to get it.
He had the special key, so they would say, "Hey, we want to do some carne asada." That was their keyword, like barbecue kind of stuff. And he would go over there and open the door. And the book covers one story that deals with this attorney that wants to cross a load of weed.
Oh yeah, tell us that story.
Yeah, and so he, Lalo tells him, "I can make it happen for you." So at the time, the La Linea was killing anybody that was trying to move in their turf. So they were the ones that wanted, Sinaloa had to pay pago de piso, meaning they had to pay to cross drugs through Juarez, to the Juarez cartel. So they protected their turf real well. So they brought this attorney to the the house of death, and they were going to kill him. So they brought in 2 police officers for the state of Chihuahua. They were going to be the executioners, and
because no one's better at executing than police officers, I guess.
so they didn't want to shoot him because they didn't want to make a lot of noise, wake up the neighbors.
Yeah, because his house was actually in the middle of like a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, a nice
right?
neighborhood,
Yeah.
a very middle class neighborhood, and so they tried to strangle him, and then they put a bag over his head. He was kicking, and Lalo was helping hold the legs and things like that, and then they killed him, and they kept his weed, and then they paid $2,000 to each police officer, and Lalo, they praised him for helping. So he recorded that incident, and that day he went and met with his handler for U.S. Customs, and told him what happened, and he actually gave him the recordings, and they said, okay, well, good job, go back and
get more
information, and they sent that report up to DOJ kind of deal, and they kept doing that. He ended up doing close to 30 executions, participating in about 30 executions that were
that they know
told
about.
that they knew that the U.S. government knew that he was doing. So it became very controversial. They actually had to pull him. They finally that Lalo's deal jeopardized some of the DEA guys that were embedded in Juarez. They had to pull him out of there, and the DEA agent in charge in El Paso ended up being like a whistleblower type guy, because he ended up writing letters up to DOJ saying that U.S. Custom was, violating policy by keeping Lalo as an informant, and that they had actually jeopardized some of the DEA guys. So, but they brought him back, and he's out here somewhere.
Yeah, he's roaming around. Yeah, so that's one story that's in that book, and it's just it's interesting because there was a personal connection to it, and I think we were kind of joking about it with me and you and.
Yeah, when you're telling me, man, he was telling us these stories that are unbelievable. It's hard to believe that he's like, yeah, they're real.
Yeah, and he doesn't even care, I guess. That I think he kind of knows maybe he's a marked man. Maybe people still remember him. Maybe those people that wanted him dead are now dead themselves. But who knows what's down in Mexico? I mean,
at one time they were Juarez cartel was really looking for him. Yeah. He was trying to collect some money from the cartel that they owed him when he was under the witness protection in El Paso, and so he was going to meet with some of these guys. They were going to pay him, but he was afraid, so he sent his friend to Whataburger.
Yeah, this is a crazy story.
And said, "Hey, bro, can you go pick up some money for me?" And okay, sure. So he went there, and they thought it was Lalo, and they killed.
They shot the crap out of
that
car.
Right. So
didn't even look to see who was driving. He said he was going to be in a Cadillac, and
guy
drives up in Lalo's Cadillac, and they just opened fire. And
it was at night, so they were assuming it was Lalo.
And this was in El Paso, or
in El Paso, a Whataburger. So they ended up taking him down to New York. Under the witness protection program, and later on, because Lalo had a habit of talking to everybody, including some other people that wrote books about him and media. So after a while, the U.S. wanted to actually
shut him up.
Send him back to Mexico. So they tried to deport him.
Get him killed. Yeah.
They tried to deport him, but the judge says no. It's it's too dangerous.
You own him now. Yeah.
Right. You used them. So basically.
He's still getting paid from the government.
Right. Yeah. So, and then his family was not with him. So his family got placed someplace else, somewhere in the Southwest. I got a feeling they're probably here in Albuquerque. Yeah, is what I think, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, only he knows that, I guess, for his own safety or their safety, I guess. It's a crazy story. Yeah. So that's just one of the cool stories in that book, but it's a lot of history that that covers from like I said, or like we talked about, from 2008 to 2013. Is that?
Yes,
Yeah.
2013.
Have you? So now, since you wrote the book, I know that you've gotten some offers from law enforcement agencies to do to talks on it. On your findings, and you're becoming quite the celebrity expert witness about that stuff, and so I know a couple California agencies have talked to you about it at this point.
Well, what it is that there's a big presence of law enforcement on Borderland Beat, so they follow it a lot. So for a long time, everybody has been collaborating on Borderland Beat has been anonymous. And it's the first time I actually went to a couple of weeks ago to Ontario, California, to present on the Borderland Beat. And it was the first time ever that a collaborator from Borderland Beat had actually came public. And I came public a while back, but not through media. I ended up my department found out what I was doing eventually. So I had to, fess up that I'm bugs. But what happened was that I came out with a book, and they wanted me to come and talk about Borderland Beat. And when I went to Ontario, I was like really taken back how many people really follow Borderland Beat. There was like big fan base of Borderland Beat. So there was a lot of anticipation me going over there. And when I went there, I just took 30 books, and I should have taken more. I could have sold a whole bunch. But I was really surprised how much interest there is with how many people follow it. Everybody was. There was a line of people talking to me about Borderland Beat and everything else. So that's why the book has done well, because of the fan base in Borderland Beat. Yeah. It's done well online, and mostly with law enforcement. But because mostly the book deals with the corruption with police. Mostly that's what I kind of concentrate on. The corruption, the level of corruption from the lowest to the highest, and how the police, not all of them are corrupt. There's some that die, get killed.
Yeah, because they're trying to be honest.
Doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them also that are on the payroll. So that's what I mostly, focused on. And there was, in the book, you also read about me going to Juarez and meeting with an undercover, police to tell me more information. It also talks about Pedro, a witness protection guy that was sending me information. That's how the FBI and the CIA ended up coming knocking on my door one day. When this guy was sending me information that was classified in Mexico. And I was
because they were watching the blog, and they said, "Hey, now you got some crazy information that we want."
Yeah, and some of that became news in Mexico. It started to make. There was one incident of some bombs. They were trying to. There was, something to do with, or terrorists from other countries. They were trying to. Bombed the U.S. Embassy. They had done a search warrant of that place, and they found explosives. And this guy sent me the whole warrant, the whole thing.
You had access to something that's supposed to be sealed, and no one has access. Right,
it was all confidential, classified information. We published it, and that thing went viral in Mexico. And then, of course, it turned out that this Pedro is in the witness protection program in Florida, and he's collaborating with the FBI. And so they came looking for me, and that's when I had to
come clean
and tell my department, this bugs is me.
And I think it's important to mention that you weren't doing anything illegal in any way. It was just you were basically getting information of people that were doing illegal stuff that you didn't know their specific names or even if you knew their names, you didn't know them, and they were in a country that we had no jurisdiction or anything
and
with.
90% of the information, I had no clue what it was.
If it was real or not.
Yeah. And I was getting Alaska, who is a boss of the Losetas. They were tracking his phone, and I was getting locations I think it was going from the U.S. to the Naval Intelligence in Mexico, and they were telling me he's over here, and I was getting that information from Pedro, and but I didn't even publish that because I was afraid that what consequence I would have. So there was a lot of information that I didn't want to jeopardize people's safety.
Your information could literally get somebody killed.
Yeah.
By posting.
Right.
Yeah.
So when the API came and talked to me, they, I started to think maybe this is not something that, I want to pursue. When that happened, the violence was, I wouldn't say that it went away, but it wasn't as bad when I started it. So the peak of the violence was between 2008 and 2013. So at that point I thought, I need to get my life back and do other things. So that's what happened.
What you were doing, I mean, you've been a photographer for most of your life also, and that was kind of your therapy / hobby / I mean, you were getting paid for it, so it was you're a professional photographer. We haven't mentioned that also. So there are pictures in the book that you've taken, and
yes.
And so you can actually experience some of his photography. Let's talk about let's get off the crazy stuff a little bit and talk about your photography world. When did that start, and what's that?
I've been doing photography for a long time. I actually started doing photography since high school. When I was able to talk my father into buying me a camera so that I can take pictures of family, for example. So I always had an interest in photography. Probably, I started to really get serious as a professional, meaning getting paid. It was probably maybe 20 years ago. And now, at one point I was doing, and now I'm doing photography full time. So I'm retired, so I don't kill myself doing it, but I do it because I enjoy it. In all aspects of photography. It can be, portraits. It can be quinceañeras. I don't do weddings. I really don't like doing weddings. I do landscapes. I do, wildlife. We just finished shooting the
Thunderbirds.
The Thunderbirds, the air show. Yeah. I like to do that kind of stuff. I do a lot of models with promotions. Commercial stuff. I do a lot of that.
So let's. How do people look at? How can people look at your? You have a website, obviously, that people can go look at your work, because it's. I mean, I could pull it up myself and show some of it. It's fascinating pictures. The models that you work with are always the most beautiful, and your makeup people are always the best. I mean, you do a lot of that cosplay stuff where they dress up as Wonder Woman or whatever.
So I do, paid client work, but I also like to do creative stuff. So I like to, do stuff that is creative, that, it's not just a person, I like to do, like Dia de las Muertas, for example, or cosplay. I like to do that kind of deal. Going on location and do some creative photography, so things of that type. So so I like to sometimes just do things that I enjoy, without having to make it into a profession many times. So just doing family portraits can sometimes burn me out.
When you did when you were in the Marine Corps. Were you doing any kind of photography stuff in the Corps?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have tons and tons of photographs that I did when I was in the Marine Corps. So constantly, even as a police officer, I'll see police officers and they'll say, "Oh man, you took this picture of me riding my bicycle," kind of deal. So I would always take pictures of police officers. So it's always been like that for me, just constantly just having my camera. Now with the way phones are, they do such a good job. Sometimes I take pictures with my phone, but, back then I always had a camera. When I had my police car, I always had a camera with me, and I was taking pictures.
And now, I mean, we're kind of doing that. we're doing that service now on the side, just taking pictures of police officers and their squads, and
Yeah, and that's very fulfilling.
yeah.
You know, so giving back
Giving back to the
department. So that's, you know, that makes me feel good whenever I can just take
Nick,
pictures.
if you could pull up the screen, go through some of these pictures. That little thing there. So this is I'm gonna scroll through some of your work just so people can see the kind of stuff you do. I mean, what's going on here? What is this?
That's a project we did with some models, kind of like the Mexican Revolution, Las Adelitas, we called it. So that's kind of fun.
That's
we shot
cool.
that in Varela. This is a dancer. We actually snuck in this. We call it the bunker, and she was throwing flour.
Oh yeah, that's the one that weird bunker out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
That nobody, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there used to be a slaughterhouse. So we went in there and set up lights and everything. And she, it was cold, and she started throwing flour, and we lit it up. And
She's a trooper.
yeah,
And
this
there's
was
a little behind the scenes picture of you.
yeah, this is Peterbilt.
The calendar.
We used to do a calendar with the trucks and models. But
This
and
young lady.
I'm doing her daughter's quinceañera Sunday.
Oh
That's
wow.
Lydia. So she wanted some pictures for.
Doesn't even look old enough to have a daughter.
She wanted some pictures for New Year's.
Looks
This
like
was
she's like
during
a parade or
during the
something.
state fair
state-
parade, and right there on Central.
There we go. This is one of the La Llorona, or what is this?
Dia de los Muertos.
Oh, okay.
yeah. So we
That's
took
some,
that.
but that's some of that makeup that you took
Yeah.
pictures of.
So I work with Susan Gomez and Brenda Rodriguez, and they do
Incredible.
amazing work with face painting. So it's unbelievable, and that's APD.
Of course, that was the balloon fiesta.
the balloon fiesta.
There we go. Sicario. So
Yeah.
Me and Nick. That's one of our favorite movies there. So when you posted
Yeah.
this one,
And
you
that's-
were
that-
kind of recreating the
Right.
poster, and it came out perfect.
Yeah.
My
which-
two daughters were in the second one.
Oh, really? The Soldado?
Yeah.
Yeah, those movies were.
They were at the grocery store. They got blown up. so this is actually, she's actually nude, and this is the paint. They
Right.
painted her body with that the skeleton. It's fascinating work these ladies do. Great picture. Yeah, so that's just an example. So your Facebook page is a public page. I mean, what it's Alejandro Marentes, so they can find you. Website, you have a website?
Yeah, so you could do. You can go to Bugs Photography. So instead of the
There it is.
COM,
There
it's
it is.
photography.
You could probably find it through Bugs, BUGGS,
Yeah.
like the Bugs Bunny.
So if
or
you
Alejandro.
also if you put on the address for the website, Bugs Photography, you can see a lot of my work there.
Yeah, the website probably
The
a better place
website.
to look at the more pictures. Facebook's just more of the just a fraction of what you actually can. And you have stuff on there for sale, and the book is doing very well.
Yes.
Online, how can they get copies of that?
So you can get it on Amazon. You can get it anywhere where you get
Yeah,
books.
I mean, we
for
even saw a link
Barnes
for,
and Noble.
for Walmart.
Walmart,
somehow.
eBay.
Yeah,
I
pretty cool.
I really don't understand how that works, but
Yeah.
whatever.
We got a
But
guy
you,
doing all that stuff.
you can get it on Walmart online. So if you order online, then you can pick it up at Walmart. Almost anywhere where they sell books, you can pick it up.
So what if somebody is interested in having you talk to their class or their department or convention about this stuff? How would they get a hold of you?
So,
do you have an agent?
So I do have a website, alexmarentes.com, and if you want to know more about the book, I have a lot of little excerpts of the book there, a lot of more media that I could not put in the book, and contact information there. My phone number is there. Right now I'm getting some requests for
Yeah,
presentation.
You're going to be busy.
So I'm doing doing a couple of places here coming up. I'm doing about 5 of them from now till August. But I love to talk about the subject matter. I like to talk about the Mexican cartel. So if anybody wants me to come in and talk, I'll be more than happy to do that. I'm retired. don't have
Nothing
anything
better
else
to do. Might as well enjoy doing what you enjoy
right.
doing.
So I'll be more than happy to do that. Any law enforcement, I used to do presentations for APD for a unit. I did a couple for SWAT. My stuff is it's not really like rated for kids,
Yeah, obviously.
But
Yeah, the poor Alicia story. That's horrible, man.
Yeah.
That's
so I'm dealing with horrible things with things like that. And when my presentation, I end up showing like media, like pictures. It's part of the whole thing.
You told the first time you told me that Elisa story, 2-3 years ago, whenever it was, it shocked. I mean, I have nightmares about it because you're describing this innocent, poor little girl, just nice. I mean, mom, typical mom, picks up her kid from school and they're just gunned down, and turns out the guy was some kind of whatever, and I guess you just never know who people are sometimes, and the fact that they let her live. I mean, they killed her little brother, but they didn't kill her. I mean, did they want her to live so that she could tell a story? I mean, it's just
when I was doing research on that, I ended up going to El Paso and talking to someone, a journalist that had covered that story. That was just another incident of many.
Hundreds, yeah,
but he was telling me, you'll never know, because I was asking the same questions, and he says maybe he had a daughter himself. Who knows?
Yeah.
And
the gunman that happened to go to that side,
right?
Because if it was the gunman that was on the other side that killed the boy, he wouldn't have cared. But it's strange.
So he didn't kill her, and basically, it's settling of scores. They didn't just want to kill him; they wanted to make him pay by killing his family.
And they didn't care about the money. Just like whatever.
And it wasn't about the money.
The cops have the money.
It wasn't about the money. It was mostly about, killing a lieutenant for the La Linea.
And that's still the stuff that's going on out there. It's
still happening.
It's still just as bad, if not worse.
Right. All the Chapos get arrested, and someone else takes over.
There's always another
So
guy
there's
coming.
always someone picking up where they left off. So.
Since El Chapo lost control, who's the big guy now? I mean, I haven't heard.
So, what happens, the problem whenever they kill or they arrest a main capo, one of the top bosses, how the structures form is that you have plaza bosses. So they're like cells. So whenever you kill a big guy, some of these cells try to fight for
and they
dominance.
just start getting more power, the cells.
And they fight. Sometimes they end up fighting with each other. We call that intra-violence, where they actually start fighting to take over the cartel. But there's a guy, El Mayo Zambada, who both his brother and son testified on the Chapo trial against the Chapo. But he's a very good friend. He's an old school guy, extremely wealthy, like El Chapo. He's equal to El Chapo and a boss of the Sinaloa cartel.
And he testified?
No, he didn't testify. His son and brother did. They got arrested and got extradited.
Oh, gotcha.
And what's weird about Mexico is this. You have El Chapo, for example, a guy that killed thousands of people. Of course, they can't keep him in jail because he's a billionaire.
Well, they can now.
But
when he was in Mexico.
Right, when he was in Mexico. But think about it. Think about this. Here's a guy that killed thousands of people. The Mexico knows they have, people they have evidence, and they extradite him to the U.S.
Yeah.
It's like having someone here in the U.S. A serial killer, for example, that killed 30 people. This Chapo killed thousands.
Yes, thousands.
And they extradite him to Mexico to face, trafficking charges. That doesn't happen here.
Yeah, they sent them. They sent them to the United States to.
So under Felipe Calderon, he started extraditing a lot of these bosses that got away with killing thousands of people, and they get extradited to the U.S. and then they get, of course, tried for trafficking. So they never face the charges of all the death, all the murders and executions. So it's kind of sad that happens. But I have seen more and more of the extraditions, and El Chapo is one example with El Rey Zambada and Vicentito Zambada, which are related to El Mayo, and they're in the United States. facing charges for trafficking, and these guys were killed a lot of people. So that's the problem with Mexico. It's they get away. There's no consequences. They function totally with pure immunity.
Pure disregard for rules or life or anything. I think in the trial it even came out where El Chapo had paid Felipe Calderon like $100 million or $500 million.
So in the book, it goes into a lot of detail about that. This book came up. Everything in the book I wrote already. It's not like new stuff that I just finished.
It came out in the trial.
Yeah.
You were already writing about it, and
right.
It just came out in the trial.
So it talks a lot about Calderon getting paid, and all his cabinet members getting paid, and it's all there's 5-6 chapters on that in the book, and that was back in 2008, 2009 when I wrote that. So everything on the book is things that I wrote already. So I had to just get him put together, and but everything was already there. So it's interesting that all that came out, but
you knew about it.
Everybody,
you weren't surprised by it because you already knew about it.
Right.
So it's sad because Mexico's has beautiful potential. They've got the beaches, they've got all that stuff, and now people are afraid to go down there just because of the violence that is going on, senseless violence, random violence. You could just be going down the wrong road, take the wrong taxi, and end up executed for no damn reason. And that scares a lot of people from wanting to travel down there.
Or even roofied at the resorts.
Yeah, exactly. You
right.
get a beer, and that beer is drugged, and you.
It's not Cartier B.
Yeah, one thing that people need to realize is that cartels is all business. They have no reason to kill tourists. That's not something that they do. So most of the time, tourists if you stay in areas that are tourist areas, you're probably okay.
Somebody was, I don't know if it was fake news or what, but they were talking about Mazatlan, how
now Mazatlan
it's turning into like a major
Mazatlan, and also
Playa del, what is it? What is it the other one?
Acapulco.
Acapulco, there you
go. That's on the Pacific coast, and Acapulco is the worst. Acapulco has taken.
Nobody wants to go there.
The Beltran Leyva and the Sinaloa cartel use that as a battleground, kind of deal. So the crime, spiked in 2011, 2012 in that area, and it's still bad. So tourists stopped going.
Yeah, I think somebody did a story, one of the news channels, that they went down there and they were showing these beautiful hotels that were vacant. Because tourists don't want to go there anymore because they're showing just down the street, they're showing decapitated people in trash bags, and so, who wants to go
right.
go to a place where you it's horrible that and I don't know what it's going to take to clean that up. They have to want to do it themselves down there to fix it. Only so much. I guess it comes down to Americans. If they stop buying drugs,
it's a demand.
It'll fix that problem, but
right.
That's a whole other issue.
Right. That's why the United States has helped Calderon to try to take care of that problem. They passed that Merida initiative where they give him billions of dollars to try to take on the cartels to stop the flow of drugs into the United States. But but it's something that's hard to do. It's just.
If you're hearing that noise in the background, that's not an execution or a beating going down. That's Diego actually beating the practice bag.
Yeah,
he's getting ready for
July
6th.
Dude, I was looking around. Is somebody getting tortured?
No tortures at Jackson Wink. Well, it's voluntary torture. Diego tortures the speed bag and the dummies down there. But don't worry, guys. It's safe. It's safe down there.
So Alex, I got a question for you. What during this process, having the website and then the book and all that, what was you kind of touched on how it started, but what was kind of the holy crap, I'm really deep into this underworld?
Yeah, it actually when it touched home, when I had the FBI and CIA kind of coming and wanting to talk to me, and I started thinking, I mean, I was, at one point I was like, the cartels can really reach and touch you anywhere, really, if they really wanted you. There's been incidents here in Albuquerque where there's been cartel violence on people that get involved. So once my cover got blown, and I used to travel to Mexico a lot, and I still do, but, it's just one of those things that, I never wanted to do this, really, to be honest with you. I never thought never imagined that I would be involved with reporting the drug cartels. And so that wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I thought I would do it for a time, and I did, and stopped doing it. And that's basically what happened. But, when I was getting the FBI and CIA guys coming and talking to me, you're aware of how they would call me in and
that's
pull me.
You're saying you didn't want to get involved. I mean, I'm just over there at your shop to talk about photography stuff, and next thing you know, there's unmarked agents driving through the parking lot and wanting to meet you, and you're taking me as a witness, and they got spies in the parking lot saying, "Why'd you bring a witness? How dare you?" And giving you cards with just a name and a phone number, burner phone number. Meet me at the restaurant that's not open, but there'll be a guy in a hat and a newspaper. I mean, that's some crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. So I started thinking, that's not.
Was it really CIA? Was it FBI?
Right.
Was it cartel? I mean, who the heck are these people that
Right.
they want to meet? I was getting freaked out. I was nervous for you.
No, and I mean, and there was a point that I was concerned. I mean, I would have weapons throughout my house. I was armed 24. I was a police officer, so I was armed all the time.
Yeah.
But I would go tell my sergeant, and in fact, the time that I came out clean, and I went to my Sergeant Martinez,
Yeah.
and I told him what happened, and he's like, "What? What?
Why did you tell me this?
Yeah, what do I do now?" Right? So that kind of thing, and I thought, and it's not just me. I mean, it can, cartels. So it was just something that, I didn't want it to get that close. Where I'm having feds coming and talking to me about it. Now they know who I am. I mean, it didn't take long for them to find out who I was.
No.
So for years I went, not knowing, and I happened to use the nickname Bugs that I have been using already.
Yeah.
So it didn't take long
That's
for some
the name
of
of your photo.
right.
That's your photo name.
Exactly.
Too,
So it didn't take long for some of the media, like I had a TV station from Texas call me and say, "Hey, we know you're involved.
we know your bugs.
We know your bugs, and you're involved with this Borderland Beat, and we want to talk to you." Rah, 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 rah. And it's like, man, they found me,
Yeah.
So, anyways, I just needed to get away from it, and then this book came out, and I'm back in.
Yeah, you're back in the thick of it. But the book is fascinating. I got my copy. I'm honored to have got a copy and know the history of it. And I think even for non-police officers, it's a good read. Just to find out the realities of what's going on, just 100 miles an hour south of us. I mean, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and like I said,
Well, heck, even in our community, I mean,
Mhm.
all these shootings, probably 50% of these shootings are cartel related.
I mean, the border issue is a big thing
Mhm.
right now. I mean, we have a couple administrations right now that they're politicizing it. It's a humanitarian thing, and I mean, not all of them are good people. Not all of them are bad people. I mean, but people take advantage of it both ways. I mean,
Right.
there's good people going to come in, but there's bad people coming in too.
Right, and you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to realize that they're trafficking drugs, and the drugs are coming in, and a lot of money is going back.
Yeah.
So someone is, coordinating this stuff.
And as long as people are getting rich on the other side of the border, they're going to keep on sending those the loads over here, whether there's a 100-foot wall or they're going to find a way to get it over here.
Well,
And
it's open season right now because all the Border Patrol agents are on the border. They're not actually at a checkpoint
Yeah.
down New Mexico, like Lordsburg or any other checkpoint. So
Yeah, Nick's got a personal attachment to this thing. He's done a lot of work with the ranchers down south, and he's heard their stories. And a lot of the politicians are saying there's no problems down there, and Nick happens to have done some reporting and met some of those ranchers down there that. No, there is a problem. They're coming into their land and through their ranches and stealing their cars and their cattle and
Right.
it's an issue, but people don't want to talk about it, and I don't know. It's a tough topic.
Yeah, and you know when I was dealing with or reporting on the drug cartel, sometimes you know that you got two sides many times, talking about illegal immigration and all that. But this stuff with the cartels is real. It's happening, and people are getting killed. Juarez is starting to increase with violence.
Hundreds of.
Yeah.
I mean, here we talk about
Yeah.
we had 70, 90 murders.
So I talked to reporters, and they go, "Well, one guy gets killed, it doesn't even make the news." We wait till there's like 4 or 5 get killed at one time.
it's like that scene in Sicario,
Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah, this won't even
Right.
make the.
Yeah, this won't even make the news.
El
Yeah.
Paso news.
Yeah, unless it's a hanging or someone's is cut in pieces, it doesn't
Yeah.
make news. But that's. I mean, and there's been a few incidents here in Albuquerque. It's in the book.
Oh, yeah.
It talks about some of the incidents that happened here. Last year, Bernalillo County officer pulled over a car, and there were some sicarios. These guys had.
Yeah.
This guy was wearing a ballistic vest. They had all these weapons, coke in the car.
And that's here in Albuquerque.
Here in Albuquerque, and all these weapons and
But no crisis.
and and it turns out once they questioned them that they were hitmen looking for someone apparently to kill, and
At least they were honest about it.
they were Sinaloa cartel guys. And the two guys that got executed, they worked for the Sinaloa. They lost a load, the chainsaw execution.
Yeah.
Well, those guys,
Oh,
those
yeah.
guys got caught with a load of weed. They belong to the Sinaloa.
Yeah, you sickos that are into that stuff. There's a YouTube channel, Borderland Beat YouTube channel, and then the website. That situation. I guess there were 2 guys. There was a nephew and an uncle.
Yeah. Yes.
Tell us the story.
They were crossing a load of marijuana for the Sinaloa cartel. Got caught. They were trying to, the authorities were trying to find more information from them. They told some, but not all of it. They didn't even know it, and they told them,
they don't even know the whole. They're just told to do
Right.
something and they do it.
Right.
They don't know who's in
they were just
control.
like mules, transporting stuff. So the authorities told them, well, you know what? We can make a deal with you guys. We can just deport you, and we won't even prosecute you. And they said, okay. So they got deported, and when they got to Mexico, they were executed.
Yeah.
In
In a graphic fashion.
Yeah.
They
Chainsaw.
got one
chainsaw
guy.
style.
They had him confess to their sins, and it's a surreal thing.
So if you go to alexmarentes.com, you can find that video there.
Yeah.
And I just gotta warn you, it's really extremely painful to watch.
Yeah. Just before you click on it, you make sure you're prepared for real life. And it's not fake, man. This ain't Hollywood stuff. It's legit. They don't even show that stuff in the movies. I mean, maybe in Scarface or something.
Scarface. Yeah.
Or a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly.
But it's a serious issue going on, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about it. Obviously, we don't have enough time to go on forever about it, but I wanted to promote your book a little bit because you said it's doing very well. The first month you sold 400
Yeah.
books already.
And to be honest with you, I mean, it really has. I mean, I didn't expect it to sell that much. It's not a lot, but it's beyond my expectations of how I thought it would do. So I'm happy that people are enjoying it. That they like the book.
Yeah,
so.
they're getting an education too.
Yeah.
That they're not so naive about what's going on. So.
Right. So I'm glad it's doing well. And hopefully they can enjoy the way how I enjoy writing it, and I have a real passion about that particular era that I was involved with. But but it felt good to put it, in content and and make it accessible to people that want to read about it.
So you're gonna go back to the department anytime soon? Go be a rehire again?
No, I'm done.
You done with
I'm done with police work.
2 times was enough. Because you did retire. I mean, we gotta let you did retire after 20 years, and then you went back for another 10.
I did.
You're a glutton for punishment.
Right. I retired 20 years, and then I went back and did another 10 years and stuff. And I was mostly a school resource officer, so I got to spend dealing with kids, so it's not as stressful. But police work is for the young generation.
My cousin Pookie, you used to work with. You used to work with Pookie.
Yeah, we were both at Manzano High School.
He married. He just married one of his students from El Dorado. I just found out. Beautiful lady. I don't think it's a funny story, but
okay.
she was he was a cop a very long time, so it's not like creepy young or anything.
Okay, so she's not a student.
No, she's not a student anymore. That's I got to get that in there so he doesn't. Hey, why are you telling me these weird stories? But I just want to say again, thanks for coming on, Alex. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and anything. To get more people to hear what's going on down south, and I know it's very personal to you, and it should be personal to everybody because it affects. It's not just affecting the selfish. Don't be selfish about it. It's affecting us all, and it's something we need to pay attention to.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course, guys. Go support him. Buy his book. There's $15 for the paperback.
Yes.
All the links are in the description.
So they're both the same size, the paperback and then the hardcover. And if you go to the Borderland Beat, or if you go to alexmarentes.com, you can get more information.
We got any questions or anything, Nick, before we tune out? Anything people want to?
No, we could talk about it off air, but there's updates on some stuff from Steve.
Gotcha.
So.
Oh, yeah, Steve's talking to Lalo as we're on the show. Okay, all right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Go support Alex Alejandro and his cool book, and if you want to hire him for some talks or anything like that, get a hold of him on his website. Thanks, guys.
Through these doors walk the greatest fighters in the world.